district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be trading. And I always be trading. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Welcome, Fantasyland, to a new, fresh relaunch of BALLiN. Dan, we are BALLiN. How pumped are you, buddy? It's best ball season. SZN exclamation marks all across. I mean, is there anything more exciting than checking your email? You know that notification that you've got a new email from FFPC saying that either another pick went through or you're on the clock? I mean, what better feeling is there, Dan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, when the first drafts went live on Saturday, all of a sudden it was like, all right, we're on. I looked at my wife and I said, guess what? She goes, what? And I said, I'm drafting. And she goes, no.
Well, at least you don't get the eye roll that I get whenever I talk about fantasy. I get all kinds of.
She's well aware of my addiction, so it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, we're happy to get the show rolling though, and why not start off with these first early best balls, right?
Yeah, we're in some pretty big ones. I've got 3 going. I think you've got 3 going. We're in one like huge one together, a $77 one that we'll talk about in the show here. But before we do that, just so Fantasyland, you're listening right now, tune in regularly because we tried to launch BALLiN last year. It just didn't work for whatever reason. But this year we're committed to it. Dan is taking over the captain chair. And he's going to be driving the BALLiN bus, and he's going to be helping, all of us get our rosters in shape to win these best balls, whether you're playing on the FFPC or wherever you're playing your best balls. Hopefully you're playing on the FFPC because they are definitely my favorite. But then I'm going to pass to you, brother.
Look at me. I'm the captain now. So anyway, yes, welcome to the inaugural episode. You see what I did there? Of BALLiN. Yes, and we're gonna make this a much more regular feature for 2021 and the Goat District Family Podcast, as JD was talking about. Some things we're going to be doing here. We're going to be covering all the major best ball platforms. We're going to be looking at the best ball tournaments and talking a little bit of strategy there. We'll be doing draft reviews of best ball drafts. Either ones that we've done or maybe ones that we find interesting that we found out, on Twitter or wherever. And then also some live draft shows where we'll be just doing a show while we do a live draft on FFPC or BB Tons or Underdog or whatever it might be. But for today, we're going to be talking FFPC best balls because they are the best balls that are going right now. And hats off to the FFPC for getting this thing going. They're the first to get us moving right away now. That's been this way for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, that they've been the first to market with the best ball every year. And they've got one of the best products out there. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're also going to be talking some early 2021 redraft rankings because, of course, those are very important when you're doing best balls. You got to figure out how to rank the players. And right now, nobody really knows what's going on. We're all trying to figure it out together. So, I'm happy to have JD with me as always. And then also we have Theo Grimminger coming in, and at the OG Fantasy. And Theo, if I can get him up here, is going to be helping us out a lot with rankings. He's going to be putting together his own rankings show that's going to be coming along pretty soon. And we're going to talk a little bit about rankings today. But first off, we're just going to talk about those FFPC best balls and that they're open and how those are going. So what do you think, Theo? How is it? What's your thoughts on the best balls so far?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I love the league we're all in together with a number of guys from our Dynasty League and a couple other heavy hitters. It's been a really good process. Right now we're in round 12, and hopefully we get a live pick on the GOAT District because I'm coming up with the 1303. So hopefully that works out. We need Todd from PA to make back-to-back picks, but that should be coming up. And I'm also in one other Superflex draft with a couple of the guys from the GOAT leagues, which we just started. I believe, Dan, I think you're in that one with me. Yeah. Superflex one. I took Travis Kelce with the 5th or 6th pick. So I was pleased with that, get a little Travis Kelce. But it's awesome. It's a great process. I don't want to do too many early ones, but I think it's a great way to get your head on straight to where ADP will be. I think especially in the FFPC, you go up against a lot of high volume guys when you draft early, and I think that the high volume guys, this time of year are the same high volume guys you're going to see in football league drafts and in a couple of main events as well. So people are trying to see where they can get guys, and obviously we haven't had the NFL draft yet, but you kind of see the steam behind a couple of these rookies and how high people are willing to take a rookie with no idea of his landing spot, which is also a little bit exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of fill everybody in, the FFPC best ball drafts, there's really something for everybody there. Right now, they've got quite a few options open when they get all their drafts open. I mean, they've got like 49 possible combinations at least figured out, because you can have 28 round drafts or you can have slims. And then you can have classic drafts with just one quarterback, or you can have the Superflex drafts. You can have 2-hour clocks. You can have 6-hour clocks. They will start running live drafts before, within another month or two. You can do double ups. You can do them at any price level you want: $35, $77, $250. So any kind of combination of those things that you can imagine, you can find a draft that fits that. So if you like Superflex drafts, you like a short clock, 2 hours, you want to double up, and you want to spend only $35 a draft and just, have some fun, you can do that. But on the other hand, if you like slim drafts, that are fewer rounds, you don't have to worry about kickers and defenses. You like a longer clock, but you want to spend $250 per draft, you can do that. I mean, so there's tons and tons of ways you can go about it. The nice thing is that, like I say, there's just something for everybody there. So if you haven't been on the FFPC and tried out their platform, you really owe it to yourself to get out there and give it a try. I will warn you, it is pretty addictive. So
I was just going to say, Dan, like my one thing coming into this like best ball season was I'm going to play less at a time and be more focused, like instead of running like 5 to 6, 7 at a time, maybe I get 2 or 3 going. And I've already got 3 going, and we're like a few days in, and I'm just looking at the list right now of the ones that are, when it goes red and it shows you like 3 or 4 left, and you're like itching. You're like, do I want to sign up for this? Should I sign up for this? Next thing you know, you've gone through all your credits and you're 2 weeks into the best balls,
Yeah, that would never happen to me. No, never. And the other nice thing about the FFPC is it allows you to kind of level up. Like if you want a $35 draft, you can redeem that for an entry into their football guys championship with a $500,000 grand prize. And things like that. So, you can, if you want to just do more best balls, you can get credits and do more best balls. If you want to get cash out, and just harvest money from it, you can do that. And if you want to use it to level up and get into bigger tournaments, you can do that as well. So lots of different ways. And as these guys said, we do have several drafts going amongst the three of us. And, I think guys, the most for sure thing right now is that nothing is for sure. ADP is a little bit like the Wild West. The only law is whatever price you're willing to pay or whatever price you're willing to enforce, right? And, the fun thing about this draft we're doing with, with these guys that are in the hard weight best ball draft, we've got a lot of really sharp players. I mean, guys who are consistently going out there and winning, thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars playing fantasy football. So this is not just your average run-of-the-mill schmoes. These are guys who really take it seriously. And the fun thing is, when we're doing this draft, everybody's kind of looking around at each other, and who's drafting what where, and we're all getting ideas like, ooh, I didn't think about that, or, whatever. And we have a chat going with it at the same time where you can definitely see, people's people were kind of percolating on this idea and that idea. And well, what did you guys think about this pick here? So lots of good,
the sharpness, Dan. The sharpness is emphasized when you're in other drafts. Do you know what I mean? And you're playing, like, we're in this 77 right now, and it was all 35s. I don't know if they changed, if there's more now. I didn't notice, but it's just, I'm in other ones, and I'm picking up, like you said, from these guys, and I'm using it. And I'm like, oh man, look where I can get this guy in this draft, because nobody's even thought of him yet.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's the fun of the early ones. What do you think, Theo? What are you seeing in those drafts?
It's early ADP kind of went the way you would think. I think that you start getting, when you get to the fourth round, I think that's when you really see things kind of jumping all over the place. Right. So I think for me, the most interesting thing is seeing where the elite wide receivers are going. This year, a lot of people are talking about it's going to be a vintage zero running back year, and all these wide receivers are great value. And I think we'll see, by the end of the summer, maybe 3 or 4 in most first rounds. But I just think it's interesting to me, like in our league, Noah Riddell took DeAndre Hopkins with the second pick in the second round. And I thought, that's interesting. Noah's one of the sharpest guys around. And that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. I would have had DeAndre a little bit later in the second round. So little things like that. And then the rookies, that's always the most interesting thing to me, where guys are willing to plant their flag on a guy. In our league, Jason Oggs took Javonte Williams in the 5th round, which was a very aggressive pick, but he could end up looking super smart on that one. He's a very, very sharp player, especially with young talent.
And it's also his third RB, just to throw it at that point. He's already got 2 studs ahead of him, so it's a really nice pick there.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that, but I just love that pick. It was aggressive. He's the kind of guy that you might see in some other drafts go in the 8th round right now, but he went in the 5th round for ours. So I just think it's I love seeing guys plant their flags on talented guys and not really worry about landing spots. So those are kind of my takeaways. And then I also like seeing where the quarterbacks go. I think you start seeing the positional runs. It's kind of, in our league, we had a what is that about?
We had a run, and it went early. They went early. Yeah. Like, I wasn't expecting it in this crowd, but I kind of get it.
Yep. I think, Austin Martin started off when he took Patrick Mahomes, and that kind of wakes everybody up. As soon as somebody, and you guys will back me up in this, when you're, the harder the draft you're in, sometimes it's like people want to wait so long to take a quarterback, and you can it just gets pushed down. And then as soon as somebody takes that first one, then you want to get those top tier guys. So in a home league, you might see Patrick Mahomes go in the, 4th round, 3rd round. But when you get to these higher stakes like FFPC leagues, so, Austin waited and he got Patrick Mahomes at the 502, which is tremendous value. And then everybody started taking quarterbacks. So it was that was really cool to see as well.
Yep, for sure. And let me see if I can.
Do you want me to throw it up?
Yeah, I was just about to throw it up here, but
let me see if I can. do this on here like this. Why isn't it? Oh, yeah, I think you already have control of it, no?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Here we go.
I just gave it back.
Here we go. Share. Bam.
There we go.
Is that good?
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, it's. I was just going to touch on the quarterbacks there because I did find it interesting how early they went. But you're right. Like it's one of those things where, especially when you're you're playing with, when some of these drafts, you don't know who you're drafting against. But in something like Hardway, we're all in a chat together. We've played Dynasty together, so we're familiar with the level of experience. And like you said, Dan, like guys who have won 6 digits just playing fantasy. I mean, that's no joke, right? So you don't want to be at a disadvantage anywhere. And I think, if we're going to get into strategy, like, one mistake that I think I made in the past, especially in Dynasty on the FFPC, when you're looking at a 28-man roster, you have to take advantage of that. You have to take what the FFPC format is giving you, which is it's allowing you to build depth in those positions. So one thing I did last year, and when I was successful in the FFPC, it's when I had like 4 quarterbacks, when I had 4 tight ends, 3 defenses, 3 kickers, and I built up top heavy with the receivers, the running backs, kind of not necessarily like a starting lineup, but the top half of my draft was really focused on that. And then building depth in those positions really helped me, especially in a year like with the COVID situation. But take advantage of the formats that you're playing in. If you're playing a slim, you can't play it the same way as you do the 28 deep rosters on the FFPC. Take it into consideration, is the tight end position premium or not, right? Like I went Waller with my second pick. I took Diggs at 10, and then I took Waller coming back around after that Hopkins pick. And it's just, again, I'll just throw one more thing before I pass it back to you, Dan, is go with your gut and go with your experience and what your gut feelings are. One thing I did last year, Dan, in 2020, is I told myself I'm going to be more confident in my own beliefs and where I think these players are going to end up. And I did that, and it paid off big time. Like I made moves that maybe wasn't the most popular at the time. I got players that maybe weren't the most popular at the time. And I did really well last year, relative to previous years. So that's one thing I'll say. If you're doing the research, you've selected the people that you want to listen to. Hopefully we're part of that. And you're using the tools that you've discovered. And we'll talk about some of those tonight. But be confident in how you process that information. That's what I'll start this whole thing off by telling the listeners is, you put the time in. So use that and then make those decisions, based on that. Don't, go look up some ranking on player or whatever. I don't want to, single out any sites or anything, but I'm just saying, like, use your own thoughts, and the whole, like, teach a man to fish thing, learn to fish. Don't just grab a fish from someone else.
Right, exactly. And, I think with these early best ball drafts, you got to have a little bit of you've got to try to figure out the player evaluations as best you can, knowing that there's a lot of uncertainty. And so for me, in a lot of places that will lead me a little bit more towards safety rather than trying to be too risky. I'm going to take some proven producers. I'm going to try to hit positions on teams where I know, this particular team is going to use their running back a lot, or this particular team is, going to be throwing the ball a lot, or whatever the case might be on that. And then some of it is just, using good roster construction and understanding, what you've got going on. Like JD kind of alluded to it. I'm drafting out of the 8 hole, and I picked up a couple of tight ends by the end of the 5th round, Andrews and Hawkinson, and that's a position that then I could safely ignore a lot of tight ends that came off the board from the 6th through 12th round. We've seen a lot of tight ends coming off the board. And I kind of grabbed mine, while there was a big lull in the tight ends. I mean, basically nobody had taken a tight end since JD took Waller in the second round. And then the next one to go was Andrews for me in the fourth, and then Hockenson for me in the fifth.
What a nice combo too.
Yeah. And then the next ones didn't go off until the seventh, but then that allowed me to take those rounds from 6 on and focus on other positions. Since I had tight end locked down, I could look at a quarterback. It left me a little bit behind at running back, but, to me, there's, running back's one of those things that's a little bit easier to piece together. And then I could just kind of sit there and knock off receivers as I went. So it left me with a place where I felt real comfortable. I have tight end locked down. I can get back to it whenever I want to, but it's not a requirement for me. And then I did the same thing like with my quarterbacks. I got Kyler Murray, Justin Fields in the 6th round and the 11th round, so that I could, I got 2 quarterbacks I feel are going to put up some good spike weeks. I don't know.
You totally sniped me on that, Dan, with the Fields. That's why I ended up with Tua there, because I was going to take Fields, and then Fields was gone. I was going to grab Carr to stack him with Waller, and then he went right before that. But just to touch on the tight end, because I do think it's important on the FFPC, you did that early. I loved when you comboed Andrews with Hockenson, because like you said, you could go the rest of the way. I'm sure you'll pick one up like somewhere along the way, but you could go the whole way. And the other thing I was going to say, I went Waller in 2, and then I picked up Hooper in 10. And then I came back. This is something I wasn't going to do, but I was like, I picked up Higbee in 13. And I think Higbee's interesting because he's not someone I was big on last year. I think he was being overdrafted. But with Everett probably leaving and the situation and maybe changing, maybe it changes with Goff. Maybe Goff's there, maybe he's not. But I think Higbee could become a bigger part of this offense. And I'm kind of doing what you did, but later. So now that I've got Waller as my 1 and then Hooper and Higbee as like my 2A, 2B, I don't have to touch tight end again. And the tight ends that you're going to pick up after round 13, it's really rare, unless you grabbed Logan Thomas last year or someone like that they're really going to give you significant numbers. Do you guys feel the same? I don't know. I'm kind of asking the question more than anything, because tight end I feel is an interesting position, especially in the tight end premium leagues.
I think you want to have at least 1 to 2 foundational tight ends that you can really rely on. It's sort of like quarterback for me. These one-off positions can kind of make or break your best ball season. If you're a sharp enough drafter, you should be able to find some, quality running backs and wide receivers, but you don't want to get stuck having, a bunch of dart throw tight ends and a bunch of, quarterback 24 through 32 types, and you're relying on those each week. You want to have foundational guys. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. And I like your Higbee pick too. I think that the fantasy community might have been a year too early on Higbee. I think that he's not going to be a star, but Everett's probably going to leave, and he could give you some good value right there. And you have to feel good about him going into the year as a starting tight end for the Rams. He's extended, and that's half the battle in these early best balls, is getting guys that will be there.
And just to add, then, before I pass it to you, I think you'll appreciate this, is these guys can start for you because of the way the flex positions play, right? So let's say Hooper, Higbee, for some reason, come back next year and they're balling, and I've got them and Waller as starters. Yeah, I could have picked up a running, or like a Cole Beasley or a Corey Davis or a Madison, but I just felt like with Higbee and Hooper, these are legit tight end 1 possible. Like they can possibly be legit top 12 tight ends next year if they turn, for whatever reason, things go their way. And that's kind of what I was thinking, is if the 3 pop, they can play the flex positions, those extra guys, and their upside for me was higher than what the other options I was looking at the other positions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Because, the main thing with the best ball is that you don't have to predict the week. So, you're kind of cobbled together scoring. And so in a lot of senses, it makes more sense to be taking several players who can provide you with the occasional spike week at a lower ADP sometimes than necessarily having, too many guys at a higher, that you drafted higher in the draft that where you could have maybe used at a different position to more effect, right?
Which then you're depending on that one guy every week, which it's rare that guys can produce every single week, right?
Right, exactly. Unless you get, one of the true absolute studs. I mean, if you've got Travis Kelce or Kittle, or even Waller, I mean, if they're on the field, there's an excellent chance they're going to be in your starting lineup, right? Every week, they're going to score enough points that they're going to be there somewhere, either as your tight end or as your flex or something. But they'll, like Waller, I think in most, I believe like 13 weeks, he was more likely than not to be in your starting lineup, so 13 out of 16. So that's what you're looking for when you're looking at those early round picks is, guys who can get in there and get into your starting lineup an awful lot.
What do you guys let me ask you guys that since the two Dallas tight ends went, do you guys think that Noah was trying to stack the two Dallas tight ends, Dan? Because he's a Cowboys fan, but I'm curious, comment on the Dallas tight ends, because I do think it's interesting with Schultz and Jarwin. We've seen from both of them flash what happens next year, assuming maybe Dak comes back. And B, I want to know, do you think he was going to go Pollard, Schultz, and then Jarwin?
Oh, I think Davis. Okay, so Noah Riddell's in the 11 hole, and Davis Maddock is in the 12 hole. And I guarantee you
totally
Davis is sitting there just trying to break apart the Dallas stack that Noah has been trying to because, Noah took Cooper, which is a great pick at the 311.
Yeah.
And then he comes back around with Sutton in the 5th and then Dak in the 6th. Okay, so we get to the 7th round. He probably should have gone Gallup if he wanted him, but he took Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
Davis immediately takes Michael Gallup, so that as it's wrapping back around.
He probably thought Gallup might be coming back to him.
Right, exactly. And so Davis jumped on that. And then when Noah took Schultz, I'm sure Davis was thinking, I'm not going to let him have Jarwin too. So, Davis is getting himself kind of a mini stack of Dallas, just trying to prevent Noah from getting his complete Dallas stack. So that's pretty hilarious. And, but that's the kind of gamesmanship you're going to see in some of these best ball drafts too, especially if you're out there on the ends. You can definitely plan on, guys messing with your strategy a little bit if they get the chance, or you get the chance to mess with somebody else's strategy. So you got to watch out for those options too.
I want to give a quick shout out to Eric Block in the chat. I'm trying to put his comments in there, but then I cover Theo's face every time I do it. But he's at the Shiva 82 at the Shiva 82 on Twitter. He's obsessed, like in a good way, with best balls, especially on the FFPC. Follow him on Twitter, man. He's a really good dude, passionate about fantasy, especially the best balls, and we'll have him on the show throughout the season.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm curious, let's talk a little bit about some resources you guys use. Theo, any resources you use, to try to draft these early best balls?
Austin just sniped me.
Are there things you like to look at?
I like to look at, part of when I was doing my rankings article, I like to look at fantasy points per game. I think we get really kind of caught up in overall points, and people will say he was the wide receiver 8, and this guy was the wide receiver 14. But it doesn't help us as much as point per game.
Dan, what was I quoting today in the GOAT chat? What was I quoting for Carson versus Melgo? Fantasy points per game. He was the RB 11.
Yes,
which is the RB 22 with Melgo.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So for me, I like looking at fantasy at points per game, and I like looking at age when I'm doing my rankings. And I think for age is an arbitrary number, but it kind of reminds you where guys are at. Maybe a guy had a slow year as a 21-year-old, and you think he's going to, step up next year, or maybe a guy might be a 33-year-old producer, and you have to say, whoa, I got to, step back a little bit because there's a chance he regresses. During the year, there's some great websites as we get further on in the summer. Player Profile, RotoViz. There's a few different sites that can help you with your best ball, just in terms of, giving you more data. But this time of the year, I mean, it's really, I want to get guys that I know are going to be starting. First of all, I think that a mistake you'll see some people make is, they'll go in and draft guys like James Conner. And James Conner doesn't help you right now. These guys might become like Jordan Howard was this year, where a guy might be completely phased out based on contract situation. And, they might be unappealing to a new team. They might get passed by. I think you see guys like Raheem Mostert, who, 6 months from now, when we're drafting in the summer, a guy like Mostert might be a 6th round pick, but right now in our league, he's going in the 10th round. Todd from PA took him, actually great value right there at the 10:01, but I don't want too many of those guys. So really for me, it's I want to get my guys, but you don't really have much going in terms of data. So it's more of a gut, and I do want to walk away with guys that I know will be getting a lot of touches and will most likely be returning to their team. I don't want too many free agents. I don't want too many rookies, but I'm willing to hit on those guys whenever I can. But I think it's really a feel and trying to draft on talent at this point in the year.
Dan, is Theo taking a shot at management on day one? Is he with the Jordan Howard comment? Are you like taking a shot at Dan and I because
I actually traded?
Because we were stacking Breda Howard last offseason. Come on, man.
In the Hardway Dynasty startup, I actually made a trade with you guys in order to go with the foolproof Jordan Howard and Matt Breda combo in our league, thinking that I would get a running back out of it. And it actually, so I feel your pain on Jordan Howard, and also feel pain for Matt Breda people. No one saw Miles Gaskin.
But those are the definition early draft best ball drafts. Those early offseason best ball drafts where you think, oh yeah, he's for sure going to be starting next year.
Those guys kill your draft. You're taking zeros on those kind of guys. So I think that you've got to be careful, especially at the running back position. And in our league right here that we're doing, I think everybody walked away with at least one foundation back, and most teams walked away with 2 foundation backs where, you're 95% sure that these guys are the starting running back day one in a good situation. Because right now you probably have about 20 running backs you feel comfortable with that will be starting game one. And then after that, there's a lot of backfields that are in flux. So that's kind of where my head's at the running back position especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry.
Go ahead, JD.
No, I was gonna throw in my I've got it on the screen with my tool, but I just got to throw in talking about running backs. My round 7 is just such a sexy pickup with AJ Dillon, because man, that dude looks like, to me, he looks like Derrick Henry in a Packers uniform. Like he looks awesome, and I would as we've seen in Green Bay, they don't give a shit about what Rodgers. Rodgers could Aaron Jones all he wants. They're like, whatever, man. We're gonna draft your backup. We're gonna draft. So, I'm kind of. I said it last year. You got to tell a story. So I'm telling my story, and I think AJ Dillon, when you're drafting, especially right now this time of year, another little quick tip. You guys will agree. There's no this ADP on FFPC when you're drafting in the draft room. It's not up to date, man. It's not like the stock market, it's not like
absolutely not. Yeah.
It's not like on a 10-minute delay because you didn't pay the extra $20 or whatever. This thing is on last year. This is on 2020, their rankings, their ADP, everything. So, you better follow Theo out there at the OG Fantasy to get his rankings, because they're up to date on the reg. And you better follow us on the reg and just make sure you have the right sources, because this is the time of year where you can really have an edge over the people you draft with, unless you're in the hard way, of course.
Yeah.
If you put in the work, and that's a perfect example. But just talking about tools, I've got it on the screen. Fantasy Mojo is a no-brainer, man. Shout out to follow him on Twitter. For me, if you're on the FFPC drafting, and he's got all kinds of ADP. They're always up to date. You guys are on other best ball, like what is it? NFFC or NF? What is it?
NFFC, but they don't. The FFPC is definitely where to be for best ball this time of year, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay. But Mojo's got basically, like I had it on earlier. Like we're saying, there's no ADP. He's already got an ADP for these best balls. And then you can actually go, if you look at the screen right now, you can actually go to all the drafts that are going on, including our $77 that's right there. And you can actually follow along. You can look at the draft board. You can look at the rosters, the draft report, and it tells you what round they're in. And then they break down. You can see the slim ones at the top and then the deeper best balls. But yeah, Fantasy Mojo, if you're drafting best balls, especially on the FFPC, that's a no-brainer. You definitely need to be on there. And then, Dan, I'll pass to you, but we all know RotoViz tools, easy, no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. RotoViz has tons and tons of great tools. And as best ball season gets a little bit deeper, their tools get even better. But, just right now, you can take a look at the 2020 best ball win rates and see which players, had the best win rates. And, you have to keep in mind that win rates are a function of not only, who the player is and how they did, but also where they were drafted. Like if you had Justin Jefferson, he was like, a total league winner because you picked him up so late. Whereas if you had Adam Thielen, he was pretty good, but, he went a lot earlier. Even though he scored a lot of points, he didn't have as high a win rate as Justin Jefferson. So lots of things like that. You can play around with in some of their tools. You can play around with different builds and see how they've done historically on different platforms. So you can see, okay, so if I draft 5 running backs by round 10, and I don't take my first tight end until round 8 in an FFPC, what's the win rate of anybody who had a build like that, right? So you can get in there and just get super creative, and you can find some little niche builds that have done good in particular years or under particular circumstances, and those are good to know because you can, like, if you see a year that you think is going to be a real running back heavy year, and you want to pound running backs early, you can find a strategy that will help you pound those running backs early and still pick up the players later on that you need in other positions to win. The other thing I really look at a lot at this time of year is I'm looking at spot track and player contracts, to be honest. I think it's just so important to know what's going on, which teams are way over the cap, which teams have tons of cap space, contracts of players, who's got a contract that, even though the contract might run 3 more years, the team kind of has an out right now because there's not that much dead money left. Or who has a contract where it's like, yeah, this player is going to be stuck with this team for 2 more years at minimum or something like that. And that can help you figure out not only, which players might get cut loose, because, of course, we all know who the free agents are right now or the free agents can be. But there's also, as we know, plenty of players besides that are going to get cut loose by their teams while they work to get underneath the cap for the beginning of the league year. And then, looking at where those players might go, you can look and see, the Jets have, the second most cap space. And, wow, they still really have a big need at running back. And it doesn't take too much effort to figure out that the Jets are probably going to sign a high-profile free agent for a running back. And if you can figure out who that might be, you can kind of, try to stay ahead of your league mates in these best balls just by being able to figure out, what players might be going where and how that's going to affect the rankings and so forth like that, which, we'll be talking about with Theo in just a few minutes about his rankings. But, those kind of things are always going to shift the rankings. And if you can see the rankings shifting before they actually shift, then you can take advantage of best balls. So that's one of the places I'm definitely looking at. How about what do you guys do real quickly? Let's talk strategies for the onesie positions, the quarterback, kicker, and defense. What are you guys doing there? How do you approach those positions? And JD, why don't you take it away first?
Well, like I touched on earlier, I think just building depth in the right position, especially something like a 28-man roster, use the space, man. You know, like if you look at, I go back and I look at drafts from the previous year, the FFPC is good because when you go on the main page, you look at my teams, they still have your rosters from your leagues from the previous season. So you can look at all your best balls. You can see where you finished. So what I like to do is I'll go in each one of them and I'll look at the top 2 teams and then I'll pull up the draft board and I'll go look at how they drafted. I'll look at how I drafted. And that gives me a good idea of kind of what I want to take away from that and bring into to this season. And like I talked about, where I found success and where I found people did well are, you know, the drafters that really built the depth in the right places. You know, like some people just go on and on with receivers, and it's like, if you went early heavy on receivers, why are you still drafting another, you know, 6 receivers in your last, you know, 10 rounds? That doesn't make sense. So just looking at your overall roster construction sounds stupid, but the FFPC is cool where they've got the different colors on the draft board. I mean, no one has a draft board like the FFPC. I'm going to say that. There's a couple sites I tried last offseason. I don't. There's one other site I draft best balls on. It's because I crush them every year, the BB10s. I mean, I just, you know, it's like free money. But the FFPC is just the most challenging, you know, and you can play the slims on the FFPC. Like you said, Dan, I don't know, you calculated that you're the numbers guy. You calculated all the combos. I mean, that would have taken me like ages to do that. I would have needed like my calculator from, you know, when you had the scientific calculator in grade 9 or whenever you thought you needed the scientific version. But no, they got the colors, man, for the different positions. And it becomes kind of like an art where you build your roster and your decisions are based on that, right?
Yep.
So anyways, that's a little tidbit. Otherwise, I mean, tight end, I think we showed a good example, Dan, where you doubled up early. And I think that's one way to do it. And you take into consideration that because you did that, now you don't have to keep hammering on tight end as you go down into the draft. Take advantage of that. And when other people are grabbing those later tight ends, you can pick up, you know, maybe you go early on, I'm sure we'll touch on this, but maybe you go early on kicker. Maybe you grab one of those first kickers or one of those first defenses. I know, Dan, that's something that you brought to Fantasyland, I would say, not even just the GOAT District. I think you, 2-3 years ago, whenever we kind of brought that up on the GOAT District, you brought that up. And I know a lot of guys in the GOAT District now, including, I'm sure, Eric listening, myself, if we have an opportunity to be the first guy to pick the kicker or one of the first guys, we'll do it. Because again, when you look at the rounds you're grabbing them, those double-digit rounds, they're important in the sense that you have to understand your hit rates at each position, right? And how much of those picks that you make are going to actually be used throughout the year. Because I look back at a lot of these drafts, Dan, and you asked in the show sheet mistakes you see people make. And I'll finish off with one other one, but one of them is you look at the guys that they picked in the late rounds, and I don't know, 80 to 90% of them are not even, they might get 1 week in your starting lineup, you know? But if you look at the defenses and the kickers, if you pull up 3 defenses and you pull up, enough, your kickers, say maybe you go 1 early and then 2 later, and I'm talking in the double digit rounds, or maybe you just double up quickly on 2 early guys. You have to just manage, look at it as in 2 halves. You've got your first 10 rounds and your first few rounds, your first half of the draft and your last half of the draft. First half of the draft are kind of like your starters. And then you're looking at your depth. But your kickers, your defenses, those are starters for you every week, right? So if you prioritize them in those later rounds, and then you build the depth, I think that's where you see the difference. I don't know if you guys agree with that. That's what I've seen in the best balls I did last year, just looking back at them.
Yeah, go ahead, Theo.
Oh, no, I was going to say, for me with the one-off positions is a lot of times in fantasy football, I think people think they're being sharp by being contrarian. In best ball drafts, I don't want to not be part of a positional run. I think that can ruin your draft. I think some people might say, oh, especially in redraft, you're a late quarterback guy. You might say, let my league mates take all these quarterbacks. I'm just going to wait and wait and wait. And that might be a good strategy. But in best ball, especially in sharper leagues, I want to jump in when there's a positional run. In our league just now, I took Aaron Rodgers because Lance took Russell Wilson and Justin Herzig took Deshaun Watson, and that was right after Dan took Kyler Murray. And I said, I want to get my guy. I took Aaron Rodgers. It was Rodgers or Herbert for me. I thought Rodgers was a better pick, and it was the smart thing to do because when I took Rodgers, then Todd from PA took Justin Herbert and Tom Brady back to back. So I feel like I got an upper echelon, top tier quarterback by doing that. So I don't want to avoid the positional runs. I think that jumping in a positional run doesn't make you some square. It makes you kind of sharp in a best ball. I want to get guys from my tier. As soon as Dan took TJ Hawkinson, I knew I wanted to get, a Dallas Goedert or a Noah Fant for me. Those were my next two tight ends, and I made sure I got a Dallas Goedert. I think you sometimes also will keep a run going, a positional run going, if you hop in it. It sounds a little complicated, but like you talked about with the color, if it's 10 yellow wide receivers in a row, and they're all in that wide receiver 2 range, I want to try to grab one of them. And then in terms of kickers and defense, I think the format we're in now, for me, I don't mind tripling up on a defense. I think you get great results from it. You pick a couple of mid-tier defenses and you make sure you get 2 of them. We're so far out, it's hard to project defenses. There's a few defenses where going into the year, maybe you like the defensive coordinator, maybe you like the talent. But it is very difficult to project defenses, so I think there is some rationale with taking 3 of them if you have 28 picks. And with kickers, I think your strategy of taking an elite kicker is a good one. A lot of times there's turnover at the kicker position, and it's guys you might assume are coming back to the team. I know last 2 seasons ago, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had Matt Gay. Matt Gay had a great season. People were drafting Matt Gay all summer. People were drafting Matt Gay up into late August. And then all of a sudden the Bucs say, no, not for me. I'm going to go get Ryan Suckup. If you took Matt Gay in a best ball draft and you were pretty naked at kicker and had, only 2 kickers, then you're only rostering 1 kicker. So tripling up is helpful. And that's one of the beautiful things about the slim best ball drafts, which I kind of enjoy, is you don't have to worry about kicker and defense, which is kind of a nice thing. And I know Dan prefers the 28 rounds to the 18, but occasionally a slim, if you don't want to worry about kickers and defense, that's a great format. But I think your idea of doubling and tripling it's almost necessary in order to make sure that you have good points at that position each week.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, that's exactly why the slims are there, is because, a lot of people just don't like to mess with the kicker and defense. I think it adds a little level of strategy, so I like it. If you want to go halfway, you can go to the BB10s, and you have defense but no kicker. So, there's all different kinds of sites out there, and you can play it different ways. For myself, for quarterback, I think, what I try to do is I try to have at least one quarterback that can make a lot of plays with their feet. I want to have usually one quarterback who's a pretty good pocket passer who's just going to kind of, get me hopefully reliable points. And then, my third quarterback, if I'm going to have one, is going to be one that's, maybe a little bit more of a wild card, like a Jalen Hurts or somebody like that, where we don't know exactly what's going to happen with them, but if they hit, they might really hit big. For kicker and defense, especially in these early best ball drafts, as Theo was saying, we don't know what's going to happen. Kickers get cut all the time. So you want to grab somebody that you feel really, really confident in. Like, we do feel confident, Justin Tucker and, Will Lutz and guys like that are going to be the kickers for their teams for the entire next year. And there's something that's, be said for that confidence. Because if you can grab two of those guys that you feel real confident about, then you can maybe wait around on your third kicker and play around, or even just not take a third kicker. Defenses, 3 defenses I think are better than 2, just for a couple reasons. Number one is it's really hard to pick the best defenses from year to year. We usually do a pretty good job of identifying, like 2 or 3 of the best defenses. We'll have, as a collectively as a, fantasy football, we'll say these are, 7 or 8 of the best defenses, and everybody wants to try to get those defenses. And usually 3 or 4 of those defenses will in fact end up being good defenses. So it's always good to get one of them. And then at the bottom end of the spectrum, there's always 7 or 8 defenses that nobody wants. And usually 3 or 4 of those are exactly right. But there's always that big middle ground. And if you can find that one defense that's really rising out of the big middle ground and turns out to be the hot defense for the year, and,
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow. What's that?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, Tampa, exactly. A defense that kind of comes out of nowhere. And, people weren't expecting it. You can get them real cheap. And, if you take 3 defenses, the other thing is you've just given yourself 3 chances to hit that hot defense instead of only 2 chances, which helps out. And, you have to ask yourself, am I going to be better off taking a third defense and giving myself a 50% better chance to find that diamond in the rough? Or am I going to be better off taking an 8th wide receiver, or an 8th running back or something like that? What's the marginal utility in my best ball team here? And the other thing is, when you have 3 defenses, that also means on a weekly basis, unless one of them's on bye, you're getting the best out of 3 scores instead of the best out of 2 scores. So again, you can add to your score that way. So there's two ways that those defenses really help you out. Number one is, you might hit that hot defense, and number 2 is every week you've got 3 defenses that are all chipping in to try to find the highest score. So hopefully you pick up a few big scores there. And a lot of times, these best balls, when I look at them, it comes down to at the end, there's going to be some where, the winner runs away with it and they're 200 points ahead of the field or whatever, right? But then there's so many best balls where it's like 20 points between the winner and second place, or between even the winner and third or fourth place. You sometimes see them where there's 3 or 4 teams that are bunched up at the top and it's really anybody's game. And if you can get those extra points from your defense or the extra points from the kicker, that could be the difference between winning and losing. So that's my commercial on it.
And there's kind of a misconception with, kicker is lucky, and like kicker is there's more luck involved with defenses than kickers.
Oh, for sure.
So if you're going to go early on one of the 2, you're better off reaching for that kicker and being one of the first there. And then like Dan and Theo said, and like we talked about with depth, is getting those 3 defenses to kind of, give yourself a good chance every week to be one of those top defenses. But prioritize the kicker over the defense is kind of what I'm getting at. And I've got just a couple, Dan, things that I had written down. Take advantage of recency bias, guys. And especially we talk about it often in Dynasty, but these rookies that people are giving up on after season 1, like Tua was like, I'm huge into sports cards right now. Tua was like, if you pulled a Tua out of a pack of cards, it was like you just grabbed a gold, like a log of gold or whatever you call it. What do you call those? Who do you call those, Dan? Help me out here. But there you go. And now it's like people don't even want him in Superflex. And it's like, relax, people. First of all, he was in Miami. He's throwing the ball to who? Devontae Parker? Who wants to, rest their career's future on a guy like Devontae Parker? Preston Williams is, I don't know, he disappeared. That's like, yeah, Gesicki's like, give him some weapons. They're not just gonna, yeah, I know there's talks about him and Watson, and if that's a flip, whatever, I don't think that's even a possibility, to be honest, but that's a whole other conversation. But my point is, like, take advantage of recency bias. You talked about Jerry Jeudy, Theo, before we came on the show. Another guy that I'm not going to bring up because we haven't drafted him yet in the Hardway League. Yes, that's right, Fantasyland. Check my tweets later. As soon as he gets picked, I'll tweet it out. So if you're listening, you'll get it. But my point is, this is something every single year, Dan, I pick up huge value by taking advantage of people that have given up on rookies after season one, especially in positions that are difficult, like quarterback, like tight end, like receiver maybe is, before running back, but even running back, there are guys that have not popped yet. So those double digit rounds, we're talking about the position at kicker. We're talking about, don't pick up guys like, that haven't popped in like 20 years. Like go pick up upside, man. Grab those young guys. Those are the guys that if they pop, they'll make a difference for you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna just real quickly here. We're gonna talk to you about one of our sponsors, the Dynasty Depot. Just want to let you know you can bid on Dynasty teams right now just by going to the Dynasty Depot and placing bids. You don't even have to be a member or anything. You can just get in there and bid on teams. Once you get on the site, I think you'll definitely want to join, as there's a lot of the membership. You get to see some of the hotter teams come up on your feed. You can sell your teams. You can also get involved in season-long contests where you can, the teams that you buy on Dynasty Depot, the players that do the best with those teams can win some prizes. So there's a lot of good stuff going on there. But it's really a good spot to be looking to buy and sell teams. I've been seeing some teams go for some really nice prices, where, somebody had put together a good roster, and for whatever reason they decided they wanted to move on. And maybe it's just to make a profit, and that's a neat thing to do there, because you can put out a buy it now price and say, you know what, this $250 entry fee team, I want to sell it for $350, and that's going to be my buy it now price. And there's a lot of those buy it now prices that have been getting hit, where people are just going in there and just grabbing it, and they'll say, I'll take that team right now. And you pick up some interesting teams there. I think, I picked up a team that had 4 first-round picks, which is, really hard to find. Those normally get snapped up really quick, but you can find teams like that on there too. So great place to check out, dynastydepot.com. Go see what you can find there.
And guys, we love to play Dynasty on the FFPC because these leagues don't fold. And that's why these high stakes leagues are in such demand. And if you go right now to dynastydepot.com, you'll actually see rosters fly across the screen with like the entire roster, including all the draft picks that they have and their prices. And like Dan said, you can get into a high stakes league and you're playing to win some serious money. Like, I won my FFPC, my 500 this year. That's a nice little chunk. It's pretty decent, especially when I convert it to Canadian. I'm like a millionaire now with anyways. But if you go on there right now, you're flying across the screen. They've got different rosters, and like you said, Dan, you can pick up some nice. If you're going to pick up, there's 2 different ways to look at this. If you're going to pick up orphans, this is a really good way to do it. And if you're good at building your rosters, whether that's through trade or through drafting, for me, that makes me prioritize the FFPC when I want to join a new league, because I know that if I draft a roster that maybe I don't have time to manage, I can go on the Dynasty Depot and try to move it for a profit, especially if you build a nice one. And if I build a dynasty and I'm in it for the first season or the second season, and then you know what, I've got too much going on, I don't have to just give it for nothing. I can go on the Dynasty Depot and sell it, move it for a profit or for some, at least to break even, so it just opens up your options. And man, I love options. I don't know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've got an opportunity here. If I'm reading our draft board right, Theo, are you up in the Hardway draft?
Yeah, I've actually been up for a while, and Austin took McCole Hardman, who I was considering taking over Nyheim Hines.
Yeah.
So
same.
Austin now has the Mahomes Hardman connection. So for about 3 weeks next year, Hardman's going to absolutely crush for him. And Sammy Watkins is also a free agent, so that's a great pick. So I am right now.
And Robinson.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll tell you my thought process here is I have on my queue, wide receiver wise, was McCole Hardman, and then after that, Marvin Jones, who had a great season.
No.
He had a great end of the year, and he's a free agent coming up. Jalen Rager, who we were talking about, people who are giving up on rookies. Jalen Rager here is great value.
Okay, Theo, stop giving Dan names, please. He's picking before me.
No, I'm sure Dan. I would bet money they're already in Dan's queue. So, and then I have Jamal Williams in my queue, where the contrarian Packers play, where if they let Aaron Jones walk, it's going to be Jamal Williams as
Theo,
part
you're
of
killing me. Dan, so, Theo's paying half my buy-in for this, by the way.
Those are my guys. So I'm leaning towards one of the receivers to get a receiver done because I got Hines last round. So live on the clock, I'm going to go. Gosh, this is actually a very tough pick because I'm going with the old guy over the young guy, or the young guy who isn't popped over the old guy. I'm going to go with the old guy and go with Marvin Jones, taking him now live on the GOAT District with the 1303. I'm going Marvin Jones.
Not bad as your wide receiver 4 behind A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, the Canadian, the Mapletron, Claypool, Judy, which was really nice in the 10th round, and then now Marvin Jones. Dude, your receiver core, you might have one of my favorite teams.
The receiver core has certainly come together, so I'll take Marvin Jones. I think he's an interesting free agent. I think he's kind of under the radar because there's so many of these Godwins and Galladays that are coming up, but Marvin Jones is an unrestricted free agent. He could return to Detroit or he could go elsewhere, and he absolutely crushed to end the season. He was a wide receiver 2 for about, 7 weeks. So I think that the guy is he's definitely great value here in the 13th round. So I'm happy with that one.
He kind of reminds me of Emmanuel Sanders,
Yeah.
One of those guys who's starting to become well-traveled, but he's older, but still super productive. And, every team that he goes to, they love him.
Fun fact, Marvin Jones does not drop balls.
There you go.
Literally no drop balls.
Now he's always a good value, and he's also a great best ball player because he has those spike weeks. So I'm pleased to get him. It'll be interesting to see which way it's going to go right now in the 13th round.
Yep, for sure. All right, so there we go. We had ourselves an absolutely live pick on the clock, and we're gonna keep picking on Theo here and talk to Theo a little bit about what he's doing with the rankings. And so, Theo, I'm gonna let you kind of take it away. Talk about what you're doing on Player Profiler, and go from there.
So, I'm excited to talk about I'm doing a 5-part top 60 rankings for redraft for 2021. They're all coming out on breakoutfinder.com. We've dropped the first 2 installments, and we're having another installment coming up this week. It should be coming out on Sunday. And then we have one more installment, and then Super Bowl Sunday should be the final top 12. So I've basically had the top 60 done. I keep going back and forth on a couple of changes in the top 20 or so, but it's basically done. It's been a really it's been a good process. I was talking to JD and Dan a little bit about this. I've always kind of been a tiers guy when I draft. I try to have a specific tier and kind of follow that, but this has kind of made me stick to my guns and really pick the guys that I think are a level above or a level behind. So it's been a tough process, but I'm pleased with the way it turned out. And I look forward to talking a little bit more about the those early guys when they drop. And so far, I've had in the top, we've dropped 24 guys so far, and there's been not a whole lot of surprises, but there's been some interesting rankings, and yeah, it's going really well. I'm really excited about it.
Good deal. We're definitely excited to have you putting together kind of a rankings podcast. We kicked around a few ideas about that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the ideas we have for that?
Well, I think during the summer, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to be ADP pockets. Looking at guys that cluster together at a certain part of drafts, looking at a lot of the ADP from the FFPC, where you might have, 5 or 6 wide receivers that are kind of all in one particular tier and trying to really sort out who the great value is. We talked about Justin Jefferson earlier in the show about what a fantastic value he was for best ball. But I think for redraft, you won your league if you took Stephon Diggs. It's as simple as it gets. You won your league if you took Darren Waller, and you did great in your league if you took Keenan Allen. And those 3 guys were kind of all going way too low, and it's kind of trying to sort through and see why people were fading them and why they presented great value. And I think this summer, I'm sure there's going to be a couple guys like that we can try to identify as fantastic values, especially compared to the guys that are going around them in the draft. So that I'm excited to do that this summer. And then as we get into the regular season, hopefully the rankings help you with your start-sit decisions during your weekly teams. And it's exciting for sure. Rankings are difficult, and I don't think we need to be completely attached to them. There's all other factors in how you set your lineups, but they certainly are helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's, to be honest, one of the things I've kind of looked at as we've been doing this draft, especially as we're in kind of that relevant part of the draft, just seeing where somebody else had, different players ranked. And, looking through your rankings, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I see Theo's got him here. And, and then you go through your explanation. I'm like, okay, I see that thought process. I hadn't really thought about it that way. So to me, the explanations are super helpful, especially at this time of year when, there hasn't been a lot written or said about players, and we all have our own ideas, but, sometimes we don't consider everything through the same lens as somebody else might do. So I think it's very worthwhile on that. And I'm really looking forward to that podcast. I think that's going to be really, really helpful for anybody who's doing, especially best ball drafts, or, once redraft season comes around and you start doing those, the contest leagues, the FPC or the NFFC, the prime times, all those kind of things. So I think those are going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we pretty well, I think we've pretty well dissected the hard way draft board as we've moved along here. So, JD, I don't know how quick and easy you can. I know you have a super flex draft that's been going for a few rounds now. Yeah.
Awesome. How do I hold on? Let me. Sorry, hold on. How do I share my screen here so that I can just hold on? Oh, I know why. There you go. I got it up. I just got to open this up. There we go. So this is a super flex that I'm in with Shiva that we talked about. He's in the 5 spot. I'm in the 7 spot. We're usually close to each other for some reason, but last season with my super flex, I was successful starting off with 2 quarterbacks. Again, just super flex. It's so much. What is that on my screen? Can you guys see it okay?
It's not up yet.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, there we go. I think I got it now. Let me go over here. There we go. You guys good? You see it?
Yep, got it.
Yeah, so I found success going with starting off with, I like getting kind of 2 of those studs, talking about tiers. So if I can get 2 of the guys either in the first tier or maybe 1 from the first, I don't know if I'm going to dip into the second, but I like getting one of those top end guys, and then I'll figure it out from there, just depending on the value that falls. I know you touched on Hopkins, Theo. So I went Deshaun Watson. I'm bullish on Watson. I was bullish on Watson last year, Dan, and he did well for me. And I think this year, no matter where he is, I think he's going to be a man on a mission. So that's why I was, I went early. I went ahead of Kyler. I went ahead of Herbert. Maybe some other, more popular picks. But for me, I went to Sean in the 7th spot. And then I came back around with Russell Wilson as my RB2, which I think is pretty nice. There, you see, we talked about in the hard way. I think the reason that, even if we're talking about a 1 QB best ball, I think the reason that a bunch of sharks went early at QB is because as I'm doing these drafts, I'm realizing you get to a point where maybe towards the latter half of the QB2s and on, there are a lot of guys that there's a lot of questions. Like, you don't even know if these guys are going to be in the league when you're talking about guys like Ben, Breeze, who knows? Like Taysom Hill could be the next top 12 QB, or he could be some other dude's backup. There's so many guys. Rivers, we found out today, is retiring, which as a Colts fan, I'm very happy to hear because, I think it's looking up from here, I guess you could say. I don't expect Watson to end up there in the same division, but man, that'd be sweet. But anyways, going back to the draft, Superflex is an interesting thing. On the FFPC, gives you a nice option. I went Hopkins, as I said, in the 3 spot, and then I followed it up in a hammered running back 3 in a row. I went Aaron Jones, Antonio Gibson, and then Dan, you asked about rookies. In the 6th round, I went Najee Harris as my RB3, and then Deontay Johnson in the 7th.
No, I like that. I like the team you're putting together there. And, one of the things I like about taking a look at these Superflex boards is you can kind of see where, the confidence in quarterbacks really drops off, right? So you go through the first 4 rounds and quarterbacks are coming off pretty frequently and pretty common. And then you guys are almost through the 7th round now. In the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, only 2 quarterbacks have gone, because we've hit that point where, nobody's real confident about anybody who's left at quarterback. And so you want to hit players that you are more confident about, right? At other positions. So, and I'm seeing a nice mix of strategies here. JD has got the 2 quarterbacks right off the bat, and then he's hammering at wide receiver and running back. There's somebody else, the person who's in number 3, and this is a strategy I also like during the early going, in that he's taken 1 quarterback as kind of as, one top shelf quarterback as kind of his linchpin at quarterback. And then he's hammering away at running back and especially wide receiver here. He's got 5 wide receivers, 1 running back, and he hasn't touched quarterback yet. Again, but the thing is, he's got Josh Allen, who most weeks is probably going to be his scorer anyway, and he can come back and hit quarterback 2 or 3 more times. Because with the Superflex, I think you gotta watch out for how much draft capital you're spending on quarterback. I think if you spend too much draft capital, either getting too many guys too early or taking too many flyers late, it hampers you in other positions. Even though it's a 28 round draft, you've still got, you can overexpose one position and end up underexposed to other positions. What do you guys think about that?
And yeah, I love how you pointed that out, because he's kind of playing the quarterback here. And I mean, that's a nice anchor when you're talking about Josh Allen, but he's playing it like that. Not like, in the RB strategy, when you're taking your 1 stud and then you just fill up that RB2 with like 2 to 4 guys, maybe 2 to 5 guys that can kind of fill it on a weekly basis. I feel like that's what early going is going to do here with that QB2 spot being in a super flex, is he can go back to back, or like you said, Dan, kind of go close, filling in the QB2 spot with 2 or 3 guys, throughout the season that'll fill it up nicely.
Right. Exactly. And the important thing was with super flex is you're only going to have 1 regular flex, and 1 super flex. So it, to a certain extent, sometimes when like when you grab a bunch of wide receivers, like he's done, he's overfull at wide receiver.
It's a little much, no?
Maybe. I mean, if he keeps hammering wide receiver after this, then it's going to be a little bit much. If he stops right here and goes on to other positions, I think he'll be all right. Because what he's done is he's got 5 guys who are just super solid wide receivers. 2 of them are going to fit into his wide receiver. One of them's probably going to fit into his flex, and one of them might occasionally fit into his super flex, depending on what his other quarterbacks do.
True.
That's
a good point.
Yeah. That's not the worst place to be in. If you can get a Calvin Ridley,
that's a nice 5 receiver core when you look like that's pretty. Those are 5 wide receiver ones, possibly.
Yeah, and if 4 of them score 20 plus points on a week, probably one of them's going into your flex and one of them's going into your super flex.
So Dan, just talking about strategy and talking about receivers, one thing that I, for some reason, kind of didn't put 2 and 2 together maybe quick enough is I'm starting to build my best ball rosters similar to my dynasty FFPC rosters, where I'm going, similar, maybe not to this extreme, but I'm putting more focus on getting those top heavy receivers, those stud receivers early, and then kind of filling in the RBs, prioritizing the stud receivers, because I don't know if you guys will agree, but as you do these drafts, you think, oh, you know what, the receiver position is super deep. But then you get to a point, like right now, we're in the 7th round. There's a really nice, we're still in a good spot when you look at receiver. These are still possible wide receiver 1 upside guys. But you get to a point in the draft where you're looking at guys like Marvin Jones or like guys like that where, yeah, they've got great upside. They finish off strong, but there's a lot of question marks there. Where do they end up? Who's their quarterback? Are they the wide receiver 1 in their new situation? Are they going to be the wide receiver 2? There's a lot of questions there. So I think that you get to a point in the draft where you look around and you're trying to fill those receiver spots. But I think I like what he's doing here with, going early with those studs. And like you said, Dan, if he doesn't touch receiver for the rest of the way, he's got enough to fill it every week where he's going to have top end scores at the position and then in the flex spots and sometimes even the super flex spot, which is a very interesting point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, where he's at right now, if I took one more receiver, that would probably be plenty. And it would probably be, something like a, later round flyer where I see somebody dropping and I'm like, oh, that's just too good of a value to pass up. But other than that, yeah, he could be done at receiver for basically as long as he wants to.
What do you guys think about the guy in the spot right before him with the 2 rookie quarterbacks in the first 7th round?
Well, it's an interesting strategy.
High risk, high reward.
I don't know how much reward there is right there. I mean, the Zach Wilson one's a little bit aggressive. I really like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is going to put up some great fantasy weeks next season. Even if you don't like him as a quarterback, his rushing upside will be great. And I think as a fantasy quarterback, he'll be very effective. But to go with Wilson as your quarterback too is very aggressive. That's not for me.
Right. Yeah, I would kind of like to have a Matt Ryan or a Matthew Stafford or somebody like that. A Tannehill, Roethlisberger, anybody like that to pair up with those guys. Just somebody to kind of give you a little bit of a stable floor in there.
Yeah.
How are you guys approaching a guy like Ben? Or even Wentz, I'll throw in that conversation.
So I think that having Wentz, I don't think there's a problem with taking in a 28 man league. I don't think there's a problem with taking Wentz and Hurts. If you have an opportunity to take both of them, you might end up with 2 starters because Wentz might move on. Wentz might stay an Eagle. I think that I'm not so scared of Wentz. I think that he will be starting a number of games in the NFL next year. But with Big Ben, I'm not sure. I think he'll be back, but I don't know. I think it's up in the air. And I think they save a lot of money if he's not their quarterback next year. So it's for me, I'm not targeting Ben. If he goes late, maybe I'd pick him up in a super flex, but it's not somebody I'd be targeting. I think that he cannot be counted on as a foundational quarterback. This guy took him in the fourth round. Yeah, I mean, that's probably about a fair price for Superflex, but it's not somebody who I'd want to take.
And look at the guy who took Wentz. That's his QB4 after 6 rounds.
Yeah, that's
going a little heavy on quarterback early.
Yeah. It seems like the Daniel Jones pick was completely unnecessary for him because he already had Herbert and Prescott. He could have taken another position and just waited and gotten Wentz or, Yep. Wentz is actually very good value, I think, in this draft. Just looking at the board based on where he got him, I think that the chances of him being a starting quarterback next year are still high. I know that the Colts are rumored for him, and there's a number of other teams that I think would love to get Wentz, even if Philly moves on. And I think there's a chance Philly just keeps him. So I think once we get clarity on who the coach is in Philly, we might have a little more clarity on who the quarterback is in Philly.
Right. This is a good example, Dan, of like he nailed it, right? Daniel Jones is where you wouldn't if you're looking back, maybe you go somewhere in a different direction. But if you had Jones, you're not picking up Wentz 3 rounds later. You pick up Wentz there at a value if you don't have Jones, maybe as your QB3.
Right. Yeah, if you don't take Jones, I mean, you could have, Akers and Chubb, for example, or you could have, Chubb and Michael Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Those would have been possibilities, that you could have put together, and I think would have made for a stronger team overall because, he's great at quarterback, okay, but he can play a maximum of 2 of these guys on any given week. So 2 of these guys are going to be on his bench out of his, first 6 picks. And in a super flex, I think that makes it a little bit tougher because you really put yourself behind the 8 ball on some of these other players. By the time it gets to him, like you said, on wide receiver, we're kind of getting down to the point where, you got to squint pretty hard to imagine anybody in this range being a wide receiver 1. You're hoping they're more of a wide receiver 2. Same thing for running backs. You're kind of squinting to see a running back 1. You're hoping for a running back 2 here. And when you're, a lot of times those wide receiver 2s and running back 2s, what they're doing is they're putting up, 10 to 17 points or something like that. And, it's giving you a nice score, but nice scores don't win best balls.
And Dan, we talk about how, how similar dynasties and best balls are and how they prep you one for the other. But the difference is you're not setting a starting lineup here, but you have to consider your starting lineup. You every week you're being scored, right? Based on your top scoring guys. So if in your first 6 picks, you've got 4 quarterbacks, only 2 of those guys are playing every week, right? So if your first pick, so already in his first 6 picks, most weeks, you've already got 2 guys in your first 6 picks that are not going to be in your starting lineup, where you could have picked up guys that are going to be and score in your starting lineup. Now, to fill those spots, you're starting at a lower ceiling, which puts you at a disadvantage right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's going to have to hit a couple home runs at wide receiver and probably at least hit a couple solid doubles at running back the rest of the way. Or his team's going to be in trouble. So that's part of the fun of Superflex is just how much should you value that quarterback position. We see team 11 taking one extreme and team 3 taking another extreme, and everybody else is kind of in between there.
Yeah, full disclaimer, there's no right or wrong way. We're not picking on anyone here. We're just kind of giving our opinions, based on what we see. But that's the beauty of this thing. Dan talked about the different combinations of even just picking which best ball you want to draft in, let alone all the different combinations of ways you can draft your roster and what positions you can focus on. And that's the beauty of the FFPC, man. They give you so many different colors to paint with.
Yep, absolutely.
Any strategy works if you pick the right players.
There you go. Nailed it. There you go.
All right. Anything else on the Superflex here?
I thought it was interesting where Trevor Lawrence is going. I'm bullish on Lawrence, but that's about as high as I that's a little higher than I would have expected to see him. I would expect he'd be going off the board, in that quarterback 15-ish range. He's going off the board quarterback 10 right here, which is aggressive. But, I respect the guy for going and getting his guy.
That's a Shiva, man. He's an aggressive player.
I can't see on my screen, so that's
that's a Shiva 82 right there. He went JT and TL in the second round.
I mean, I like that. He went and got his guy. He knew he wouldn't get Lawrence in the third round, so he took him there. And I think that's I like seeing the aggression there, but he's obviously got he's got probably a higher ceiling than a couple guys behind him, but maybe a lower floor. I think we're kind of expecting the Jaguars to take a big step forward with Urban Meyer, Scott Linehan, and Trevor Lawrence, but things could go south. But I do respect that. Go get your guys. I took Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback 2 in our non-superflex that we're doing, so I'm bullish on him, but not sure about quarterback 10.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But he's also got there's still some quarterbacks on the board, and one of the things that I always do with superflex is just to kind of get myself comfortable as I kind of list out, okay, here's all the teams and here's all the starting quarterbacks that are with those teams, and then here's the teams who might or might not have a starter, and then here's all the potential starters. And you look at all those potential starters and all the openings, and all of a sudden you're a little bit less shaky about taking Jameis Winston or something like that. You're like, when the puzzle comes together of which teams go with which quarterbacks, and you're playing that musical chairs game, Jameis Winston's going to have a seat somewhere, right? Because you're just looking at the all the other quarterbacks that are around, and you're going, well, he's better than a lot of these guys. So yeah, I think he's going to have he's going to have a team somewhere. You're just not sure where it is or how he's going to be used.
Yeah, I know for sure, man. I think tonight's great because we're looking at different formats, right? And like we said, there's so many different ways to put the puzzles together. And that's kind of what this is like, kind of like what Theo was talking about with ranking. It's not that anyone's right or not right. I know we got guys like Wheeler that just kill the ranking game. Shout out to Wheeler. But it's the exercise, it's the exercise and you being on having, we talk about it every season, Dan, having your finger on the pulse, right? And knowing where these guys are going, that helps you when you're drafting in Dynasty or when you're trading in Dynasty. It really helps you kind of quantify these players as individuals and kind of place them in fantasy land and see where you can take advantage, whether that's you looking at the current ADP going on Fantasy Mojo or looking at the draft that you're in to see where Trevor Lawrence is going. And maybe that helps you quantify that 101 that you have in your Superflex Dynasty League. And that's kind of what it is, right? It's you having the finger on the pulse and just being up to date on all this stuff. And it only can help you. And, at the end of the day, you can win some cash, some money, Dan.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, I think we're probably at a good point here. We should wrap it up. We're already an hour and a half in. We always say we're going an hour. We always end up in an hour and a half. So yeah. This is exactly the right spot. I just want to we'll turn it over to Theo here. Anything that you want to say? Pump your rankings one more time, where you can find them, whatever else you're doing, and then we'll go on from there.
You can find me on Twitter at the OG Fantasy, and you can find my writings on breakoutfinder.com. We have the rankings articles up, and I'm actually working on a write-up of the draft that I'm in with JD and Dan, and there should be some good stuff coming out. And hope to be back on a lot of these goat casts, and happy to be in the GOAT District talking BALLiN.
Awesome. And I am at Overhyped Sleeper. You can find me out on Twitter. You can find me in best ball rooms, draft rooms on pretty much any platform. So keep an eye out. And I'm just really excited to be able to get these drafts going and, kind of get my head around the 2021 season. It's definitely helping me out in Dynasty, as JD was talking about. I'm some of the things I've seen in the drafts already are spurring me to make some trade offers in Dynasty. So
Totally.
It all goes hand in glove. And I'll turn it over to JD to take us on out.
Yeah, man. We're all excited. It's best ball season. I'm really excited about this, guys. I'm excited about what extra value. I'm all about bringing value, to our listeners. And we know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate that you guys hang with us. But we want to multiply that value right now. And Theo is part of that. The OG Fantasy. Dan is a big part of that. Dan's going to, Dan and I we're on a raft out there, just the two of us kind of manning the situation. And now we've come across this kind of tribe, and we've got a cool team that we're building. And, these are all guys that are bringing something different, but something of value, and something that's going to help you guys build your winning rosters, whether it's Dynasty. We've got some rankings, waivers, we've got best ball. We're going to have some DFS for you guys. We're going to cover a lot of bases on this network, on the GOAT District. So make sure you tune in, you tell your friends, subscribe. The off season, we're going to bring you, the usual heavy hitters and guests, but we're going to expand. We're going to be like an octopus, Dan, just, 8 different arms going around, hitting different areas of your fantasy. And if there's something you want to hear from us or that you're not getting, or that maybe you're not hearing somewhere else, let us know. We're all about feedback. But that's what I'm excited about, Dan. I'm definitely excited about best ball season. This is a great show. I'm glad that we're going to be bringing it on the reg. And I'm happy about this little GOAT District family that we're building. We're at, I think, 7 right now. And just some good guys with a lot of good knowledge, to bring to the game. And I'm excited for that. That's all I got to say. But as usual, man, we appreciate you guys hanging with us. Good luck in all your best balls. Go check out myffpc.com. They got all kinds of goodness there. Dan said there's got 49 something. I said 4. I remember 40 something combinations. I think it was 49, but I might be off. But no, man, it's just a fun site to be on. We appreciate the support they give us on the weekly. Always there to support us, and we appreciate you supporting us. Tune in for a lot more goodness to come. We'll check you all later.
District, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's and I'll always be traded. And I'll always be traded. And I'll always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.